This is EMTV's 2022 election awareness program with Pangu's parliamentary leader and Prime Minister, the Honorable James Marape.
Understanding and tolerance for granted. We're now in the 21st century. We're now living in the e-commerce space, the cash economy space. That is why my conversation when I took government was the economic independence aspect of our sovereignty. At 1975, the pioneers of our nation, including the father of our country, Marape, gifted our political independence, the sovereignty we have today. They've tried their best to ensure the resource harvest in our country and the economic opportunities is expanded, but we are limited with the laws that we've been operating in up till today. My conversations about getting back more for our country is simple. Our people have not benefited much. So I've told the industries, I've told everyone, Pogra and Pinyang, for instance, are examples of negotiated outcome. But going into 2025, we will change the resource law framework completely. We will not harm our investors. They will make a return on the investment based on the investments, but our country also must take back more. So in that context, I came into office at a time when we knew that our people are not happy. And their education, their health, their roads, the Connect PNG that we're now running throughout our country.
They still are not happy.
Yeah, correct. and our SME interventions. These are all programs that is meant to ensure that the ordinary Papua New Guineans has a place in being settled in our country. If they're not settled, I as a political leader, I look into the next 10 years. That's why I mentioned a 10-year period. The next 10 years, those in positions of authority must serve our people well. Bougainville will not be a Bougainville issue today if we, in the 80s, had a more ground-sensitive ears. Yeah, yeah. But we are now blessed with the issues and failures of past so that myself and those who come after me do better. And if we carry the mess with us, unemployment is very high. People, we all produce them up to grade 12, or up to grade 10 and grade 8, and we leave them on the sideways. Yeah. So our people today almost 4 or 5 times more than our people at 1975. The expectations are high. Our people's tolerance will win out and will dry out in the next 10 years if leaders don't find good solutions for them.
Okay. All right. Mr. Marape, I want to move on a little bit. Just the final one on the Grand Chief. You spoke to him 2 weeks before he died, and you probably are the only person to be able to do that. You're Prime Minister, and maybe he felt obligated to say hello to you or something. Just give us that experience that you had 2 weeks before he passed away.
John, I was very privileged. 10 days before he passed on, he called me into his living room, actually into his porch. We sat down in the presence of 4 of his elder children, Sana, Beta, Sana, Arthur, and Dulcie. And he announced to me himself that his prognosis, the doctor has established that he had a serious cancer. And I right away said, "Sir, I can do anything for you within my ability to ensure that we get doctors to attend to you, whether it's here or elsewhere." And he refused. He said, "Prime Minister, I've lived my life. Sometimes," and quoting him, "sometimes God saw a shortcut in Mogada something." Those were private conversations I had with him. I didn't want to, in the house cry, when we had his house cry, I didn't want to really put those conversations up front. I thought it was personal. I also was invited into his living room where Lady Veronica sat, and I only gave a small caption of what I recorded in my exchanges with him. So I was privileged to sit at his feet in the moments that he was passing on. And some conversations we held, one of them basically was for Papua New Guineans to respect women in our midst. Because he came, when we were outside the porch, instead of farewelling me to go out, because I've talked to him, and in a typical male chief-sensitive society, I would have talked to him and that was it. I would have gone out. But he opened the door and said, "Prime Minister, please go and say hello to Lady." So he took me inside himself, and he went behind and sat behind Lady Veronica. And God bless her, she's still alive, and we pray for her also. And he sat behind Lady, and they started to converse with me. That's a powerful thing I learned from that conversation. Whether me as Prime Minister or any Papua New Guinean male for the matter, give respect to women in our midst, from your home and in society. So the Grand Chief is passing also, and we had conversations on CIPIC and his own Murik Lake people, as well as the greater country. When I became Prime Minister, he was happy himself.
I was going to say that, was he in that meeting with you, is that another way, without saying it, telling you that, hey, I've been Prime Minister and I've thought about the country and did all these things for the country and did not think about Murik Lakes or CIPIC per se. And could you do something? Is that his way of saying it to you as Prime Minister at that time? Do you think?
I think that was the message he basically told me. He told me, don't forget Murik Lake people, and don't forget East CIPIC province. And he's lived long life, and he's also has a special wisdom that God gives only few people. And so he's able to discern and look into the future. And he basically said, don't forget Murik and don't forget East CIPIC. But more importantly, for me, even before that last moment with him, and I knew there and then that I was speaking to a man who is in passing, in that personal contact with him. But when I became PM, he accompanied myself and Sepita Luz and themselves and Serabi, three senior Pangu stalwarts, two of them former Prime Ministers, Serabi and Grand Chief Sumare, and Sepita. They accompanied me to our first national convention we held in Leh. By the way, this week, Wednesday, we're having our national convention again in Leh. Marape is home base of Pangu Party, although it talks about national unity. Marape is a special place to Pangu. And so they accompanied me there, and he was pretty much settled that leadership has come back to Pangu Party. And when he spoke on the reasons why Pangu existed at 1975, or in fact formed at 1968, the Bully Beef Club, the contest between the class of those who were ruling and those who were struggling to emerge, the nationalist view. But more importantly, he re-echoed the views that I held on economic independence. I gave, and my leaders gave, my leaders with me, we gave political independence. But it is your generation now who must give economic independence and liberation to our country. So he spoke at that Pangu convention. For me, that was one good moment in my life where the elders of Pangu, not just Pangu, but Pangu is Papua New Guinea. It's just no ordinary party. What we have today all started in Pangu.
Okay.
The three arms of government, the judiciary, the public service, for better or for worse. Everything we have today emerged out of Pangu Party think tanks.
That's true.
And so Grand Chief and myself had special moments in the 3 years I've been Prime Minister, 2 years in fact before he passed. More moments we made contact. When I was his minister, he usually take me out for golf. I play golf with him some mornings, and he will give me some political tips in life, and most of them have come to pass. So we have a fair share of moments for some reason. In fact, in 2007, he came into Tari, John, just to endorse me. Unannounced, one morning in a chopper, the guy called Norman Barbie and Joyce Grant and his CPO, Pookie guy. 4 of them arrived in Tari with no protocols, just to come and look for me to endorse me in 2007. So I have a strong affinity with the old man who has passed on. For me, thankfully, he passed on under my watch, so I had to give him a decent send-off.
Yes, and you did that. And the other thing is he gave you the province that he promised to Andrew Waibiri in 74 or something, and he went eventually and gave it to you up there.
Correct.
Hela province. Of which a Prime Minister has emerged from there, and that's you, Tari Pori. You're in Mosby. Is Tari Pori okay? Is it another Murik Lakes that Prime Minister, you're serving the country and maybe forgetting Tari Pori, or are you hands-on? How is Tari Pori?
Tari is not burning, by the way, John. Okay. There was a headline few weeks back. My friends in Post-Korea ran that Tari is burning. Tari is not burning. We had, once in a while, we have law and order related issues. Since 1975, that part of Southern Islands, with what is now called Hela province, has had only 60 policemen in the 3 districts and the 4 sub-districts that is called Hela province today. So we only a province since 2012. We've started to work the infrastructure as well as building the systems. There are a lot of gun proliferation in the province and also in the highlands. You would know in the last parliament sitting, before we rose, I personally handed down life imprisonment for those who hold guns, homemade gun or real factory-made guns. We passed those tougher laws. So all geared towards not just Hela, but making PNG a better place. Hela is not banning, Tara is not banning.
But you've had some serious killings, though, I mean, with guns, especially in Hela.
It has been going on for some time. People have now migrated from what used to be bows and arrows and tribal fight into now, with the availability of guns, into guns. But there's something that we're looking at containing. In fact, following Friday, we're opening a military base up there, a permanent military presence. We're now opening, the National Courthouse is present up there in Hela province. We will be opening a National Development Bank branch that my district put 1 million kina and the province put 3 million kina, NDB put 4 million kina. So we're trying to slowly get people away. Look, don't be in the lawless space. Come into lawful living, get engaged in SME. Benefits from LNG will trickle down back to the province. So it is a work in progress for us. Nobody would have thought from those headline sort of place, where many would think it's the last place a prime minister would have emerged. And sitting here speaking with you, I don't look like a lawless person to you. 97-98% of Hela people are law-abiding.